You're watching balanced screams and uneven scars, the darkest stories of gymnastics. Throughout the history of American gymnastics, Jordyn Wieber remains one of the sport's most decorated and accomplished athletes.
This is the Jordyn Wieber we know from competition. A fierce competitor, huge difficulty, phenomenal!
A 2011 world champion, 2012 Olympic champion, and three-time American Cup champion, she led with grace, courage, and a focus that couldn't be taught. But her success came at an unimaginable cost. Her coach, John Geddert, was the force behind her rise and the shadow behind her fall. Chosen to represent Team USA as the 2012 Olympic coach to the world, he was the creator of champions, parading his athletes' triumphs as proof of his methods. But very few athletes could achieve the high level of perfection he demanded. Many viewed Jordyn the favorite for all-around gold in London. And when she failed to qualify for the all-around final due to an outdated 2-per-country rule, cameras caught her tears. But off the floor, Geddert's fury simmered. His dream of proving himself as the ultimate coach had slipped through her heartbreak. To him, Jordyn's pain was not just personal. It was a reflection of his empire. Team USA still struck gold in the team event, a triumph Jordyn helped deliver. But while the world celebrated, she remained the girl denied her moment, a twisted symbol of how his pursuit of glory always came at someone else's cost. And while Geddert may have had his moment as Olympic coach, his life would soon take a drastic turn, because the coaching methods he was using was hurting his athletes, in the worst ways. This isn't a story of tough coaching, and what happened next would change everything.
Called himself a coach, but to those who trained under him, John Geddert was anything but. One wrong move cast a storm of anger. Behind the doors of his once celebrated gym hid his darkness. A place sold as an Olympic pipeline was, in truth, the eye of pain and control. When gold medals poured in, they were used as the method to tighten his grip and gave him permission to coach his gymnasts in the worst ways possible. Soon he would see a gray sky of justice was rolling in, threatening his empire of silence. The injuries, the pain, the anger, now a suffocating fog that he could not ignore. He knew a massive storm was coming. It was the courage of his athletes. Strength he stole from them was now hurricane wind. With nowhere to hide, the years of betrayal roared like thunder and lit up the sky. It was the storm of injustice, a typhoon of truth, and for John Geddert it became the Days of Thunder.
John Geddert began coaching at Great Lakes Gymnastics Club in 1984. Over the next decade, he earned multiple honors, including Michigan Coach of the Year. By 1996, he led his first Olympic hopeful, Katie Teft, to greatness. Teft was known for difficult skills and fluid choreography, just missing the Atlanta Olympics in a fierce competition. But that same year, Geddert was fired, which led him to open Twistars, his own gym, his own rules. This was the foundation of his rise. Those who first stepped inside Twistars felt the thrill of a fresh start with endless possibilities. But it wasn't long before the hope wore off. From the beginning, athletes warned of John Geddert's temper. What started as shouting quickly escalated. Name-calling, objects thrown, isolation, and even violence. Many gymnasts filed official complaints, describing fear, bullying, and unsafe training. But their voices were ignored. As Geddert's star athletes rose, so did he. In 2012, USA Gymnastics promoted him, choosing medals over the safety and health of its athletes. For some, the only escape from Geddert's anger was beyond the gym floor. In a back room at Twistars, a space meant for medical care became another stage. Here, athletes turned to team doctor Larry Nassar, at first a trusted figure, someone they believed they could confide in about their fears of Geddert. But over time, that room changed. Boundaries blurred, and the trust that once felt safe was shattered. John Geddert knew Nassar. had unrestricted access to his athletes in that room. Instead of questioning or protecting, Geddert turned a blind eye. His silence gave Nassar a cover, allowing harm to continue while the focus stayed on winning medals. That back room became one of the darkest shadows in his gym. By the mid-2010s, the truth could no longer be hidden. Investigations mounted, stories poured out. Geddert was no longer the golden coach of Team USA. He was the face of a culture that chose winning at any cost, no matter how many young athletes were broken in the process. USA Gymnastics hid his methods from the public. Soon, lawsuits and testimonies painted a horrifying picture. Geddert was accused of neglect and even forcing athletes into situations where they were most at risk. What the public once viewed as tough coaching was revealed as calculated cruelty. His reputation as a genius was nothing more than a mask for torment. By 2018, the storm caught him. Geddert was named in multiple lawsuits, and the man who had become one of Geddert's closest allies, Larry Nassar, was later convicted of crimes against hundreds of gymnasts, many of them trained inside Geddert's gym. Almost immediately, Geddert stepped down and announced his retirement. The timing was no coincidence. It was a calculated move to protect what little reputation remained, knowing that if he didn't retire, the public would have demanded his removal. It wasn't until 2021 Geddert would face his own reckoning. Human trafficking, lying to police, and each charge peeled back another layer of the empire he had built on fear.
7 pages of court documents detailed disturbing allegations of decades of treatment of young gymnasts at the hands of John Geddert. Among the allegations were numerous instances of Geddert forcing young girls to practice or perform on broken legs, spines, arms, and torn muscles and tendons, frequently yanking athletes from heights of 15 to 16 feet, causing serious injury. The athletes also described extreme. One alleging Geddert kept a list of girls called his Fat Club and would force them to do extra conditioning. In one allegation, Geddert restricted a 12 to 13-year-old athlete's diet to just 500 calories a day while training off thousands of calories. That same athlete began. Multiple athletes alleged Geddert would frequently tell them to, quote, just go kill yourself. In one instance, Geddert is alleged to have told a young girl to, quote, climb off the top of the rafters of the gym, jump off, and kill herself. In another allegation, after a gymnast attempted to take her own, quote, required her to apologize to him for her, telling her her attempt would, quote, ruin him and would ruin her as well, ensuring that she never got a scholarship. Then there was the accusation of described as punishment for perceived underperformance. The survivor, who was 14 at the time, alleges Geddert followed her into the locker room and her. The athlete saying Geddert leaned in and told her, quote, this wouldn't be happening if you just completed my assignment at practice.
In that moment, John Geddert's empire crashed. Now the tables had turned. Because like so many of his gymnasts who testified against him pointed out, young girls soon grow up into strong young ladies, and they will never forget
that you are the one who is scared, not me, because I finally am no longer afraid. My teammates and I spent way too many days as innocent children, shaking, crying, trembling, some even trying to because of you.
And the fear once instilled in them from years of was now the same fear trembling inside the man who tried to destroy them. But John Geddert thought he could once again disregard his victims. In a final act, John Geddert never turned himself in. After the charges were publicly reported by the Michigan Attorney General, Geddert was forced to report to jail. He never showed. And when they finally found him, it was too late. There is no greater admission of guilt than John Geddert taking. It was his final act of narcissistic control with which he lived his life and coached his gymnasts for decades. Said Sarah Klein, John Geddert has always been above the law, and the rules have never applied to him, she added, saying she believes his final act was intended to be an insult to his victims. In the end, John Geddert was consumed by the fear he once used to control others. His greatest terror was irrelevance, being forgotten, stripped of power. The titles, the medals, the empire, all exposed as illusions of greatness. His athletes carried scars, but he carried disgrace.
The storms of truth had no mercy. Geddert's power had collapsed and consumed him. The roars of thunder now faded to silence, to peace. And as the skies cleared, athletes cleared the debris of wreckage. Beneath warm rays of the sun, they had survived the storm. Watchful now of any storm cloud, always remembering the days of thunder.